Oh, baby, the draft is getting closer and closer by the day. We're back here with the Draft Rankings podcast. Full form this time. Every single morning you can catch it at 7 a.m. Eastern Time with a little less than 10-minute shows. But today we're back with Maddie Kiewum to talk for maybe an hour, maybe two, and who knows if we get to three. We haven't even talked about if we have a hard out for this show. So we're going to tap in everything NFL draft. A lot of pro days this week, including Miami and Texas and Ole Miss. A lot of quarterback play. Couple athletic feats we can talk about. But honestly, the biggest thing that I want to talk about today is the cockamamie conversation around Ashton Jeanty at pick not only 6, but potentially 5 and even 4 to Maddie's New England Patriots. We're going to talk about all of it today on the Draft Rankings podcast. Please click that like button. Please click subscribe and tap in everywhere you get your podcasts or videos. Maddie Kiewum, how the hell are we doing, brother?
Doing great. Getting very excited for the NFL draft. We're in it. We're in the final stages. This is the highway to the danger zone, baby. We're ready to rock and roll.
Well, it's officially April, and you know what that means. It means there's not that many days left, like you said, and that's when everyone starts to pucker up a little bit in the back end, and you're like, "Well, am I prepared to get a camera in my face?" Well, we've had a camera in our face every single day, conversating about these players and these situations. Let's start out with this. A couple of pro days this week. We had Cam Ward, we had Jackson Dart, we had Will Howard, and we had Quinn Ewers. I'll just put it this way. Obviously, Cam Ward got the most conversation. Shedeur Sanders' pro day's coming up. His private workout's coming up in the next week. But after Cam Ward, you obviously have Jackson Dart, like I said, Quinn Ewers, and Will Howard. Who did you think had the most buzz coming out of their pro day?
Coming out of their pro day,
what was the most you heard? Like for me, I didn't hear, and I'm in the Texas ecosystem, right?
Yeah, of course.
I didn't hear much of anything from Quinn's pro day. That was like overarchingly, hey man, this is, and the thing it was coming into the pre-draft process, it was like, all right, what do we know about Quinn? Quinn's going to build from the combine to the pro day to the draft cycle. Like this is his season to throw against the air. He dominates in these situations. And I didn't hear much about any domination against air for Quinn Ewers, unfortunately.
No, in Quinn Ewers' specific case, he did do the throw. You know what throw I'm talking about, people. The throw. Everyone does it their pro day, rolling to the opposite throwing shoulder, kind of going across your body and getting it downfield. He did his, and everyone, I saw it pop up online and whatnot. It was an absolute duck. It was bad. A lot of the post-com or post-pro day prospect grading systems, however yours is or however you follow it, none of them went up, Cody. None of them went up, including my own. He's exactly what we thought he'd be. He's going to end up being a solid, probably journeyman. I could imagine him having as long as an NFL career as anyone other outside of the top maybe 3 quarterbacks in this class. But in terms of success, being on the field, leading teams to victory, that'll probably come few and far between. But the most hype that I saw or that I've heard coming out of the combine, not including Cam Ward, because that's low-hanging fruit. We'll talk exclusively about his in a second, was actually Jackson Dart. And it wasn't necessarily the buzz of how he looked in the zip. It was just more of who was in attendance and how all of a sudden it felt like his market started cranking up. Kellen Moore was in attendance. Kevin Stefanski was there. Brian Schottenheimer was there. It felt like all of a sudden these Jackson Dart, our teams are going to, they're going to have to wait until the second round. That's going to be the best plan of action. We're hearing a lot of the BPA talk that's exclusive for this time of year. Best player available. Go Jackson Dart in round 2. I'm starting to get the hint. And from what I'm hearing in the NFL draft streets is that Jackson Dart might not be there post pick 32, and the team might have to get aggressive because now, and we'll talk about this top 5, top 10, how it's starting to formulate, how it's starting to shake up. But you now have to put number 9 very, very much in play for Jackson Dart. And if that is the case, does Pittsburgh want to get froggy and leap up? Does the Cowboys want to obviously move Dak Prescott to the Browns? That was a crazy rumor that we were subject to this past week. Obviously wasn't going to happen, but now the Browns too at pick 2. Do they trade back let someone come up for Sanders, and then they get Dart. I don't know. There's a lot to be played out here, but I felt like the noise wasn't cranked up post pro day for Jackson Dart, but the market is starting to crank up, and noise always follows the market.
And that's one thing that definitely happened a year ago in just conversation was everybody remembers Bo Nix going to the Broncos, right, in the top 15. And
Yep.
that a year ago, he did not have a good Senior Bowl. Like he just
No.
didn't. Him and Michael Penix did not have good Senior Bowls.
Check
But
down
they
City.
both check down City, and they both ended up top 15 picks. The thing is, like, I don't remember who I was talking to this last week. Might have been Theo, might have been, I don't know who it was, but it was about the fact that I think that Dart, honestly, even though I was disappointed in it, I think he had a better Senior Bowl in hindsight than Bo Nix did a year ago. So, and I think what I got caught up in is this notion that I wanted to see his deep ball. I wanted to see him press. I wanted to see him prove that he could put the ball in these tight pockets. But if we're honest with ourselves, in that setting down there in Mobile, he was doing with what helped him progress that, offensive install during practice. And it's not his game. Like his game at Ole Miss was to obviously formulate that offense at Ole Miss around Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin's offense is built to hit the wide open receivers in the pockets. The ball's supposed to be here at this point. And he did that to a T, like 70+% completion percentage, excelled at a high level. Maybe it's just that he's very good at that. And I'm just sitting there waiting for this, 70-yard bomb or this, 65, 70 mile an hour zip into a tight window. And it's just not him. It doesn't need to be him. It's just a different quarterback. So I think now we're hearing the buzz up in conversation because some people have come out and said that, their grades are, the same or very tight between Dart and Shador.
Yep.
And I also I listen to a lot of outlets, a lot of stuff in the draft streets. And there's like conversation out there. It's like, well, it's weird how this happens, Maddie. Is like we knew like 2 months ago, people were like, yeah, well, Shador doesn't have his standard first round grade. He's not going to have a top 10 grade at the quarterback. It's just not what he is. And now it's like coming back around full circle. People are going like, well, Shador doesn't have a first round grade for a lot of these teams. And you're we already fucking knew that.
Mm-hmm. These teams already knew that.
We already, the teams have known that for the longest time. And now you come back around, well, Shador doesn't have a first round grade from a lot of these teams. So Jackson Dart might. And it's like, that's not how this works. So this has been a known factor for the longest time. So should it surprise us that the Jackson Dart conversation is getting elevated into the top 16, 15, 16, 17, potentially into that top 10 area? No, it shouldn't. I thought maybe the most interesting bit of news that we heard this last week was this thought that the Giants could potentially do like a double dip and take like a Travis Hunter at 3 and then try to weasel their way back into the top 20.
A la Nick Caserio with the Texans, yep.
Yeah, a la Nick Caserio with the Texans. And either if a Shador fall happens, they get back in there before, Seattle or something, and they try to get Shador and Travis. Or if Shador goes to the 2 to the Browns, they take Travis and then they work their way back up at some point to try to get a Jackson Dart. And you still get the double dip in there because the notion of these quarterbacks not being that far apart, it's interesting. And, one thing we haven't talked about yet on this show, or you and I haven't talked about, is just that after that Cam Ward Pro Day, the Giants go out and they sign Russell Wilson immediately. I thought it broke to be a 2-year deal, but I saw the contract come through just a couple of days ago, and I believe it was just a 1-year, $10.5 million to the Giants.
With incentives, Zach, I think get it into like 21.5.
Is that what it was?
I think so. I believe it was like off the top of my head, I'm thinking off the top of my head, I thought it was 1 year 21, but I think it was, and then I thought it was 113 and go up 21. Did you find it?
So 1 year, $10.5 million contract with the Giants, including $8 million in a signing bonus, 10.5 guaranteed, and an average annual of 10.5. In 25, Wilson will earn a base of 2, a signing bonus of 8, and a workout bonus of $500,000. So upon signing bonus, he gets $800,000 or $8 million. His base salary during the season is $2 million.
That's 10.
and his workout bonus is $500,000, while carrying a cap hit of 10.5 and a dead cap value of 10.5. So really, it's a signing bonus of 8. I don't. And again, I think from a cash perspective, I think this allows the base salary to be the cap hit, the real cap, and then the $8 million to be like a cash. I believe that's how I understand that cash breakdown. But yeah, it's only 10.5 million, and that's nothing. If we're being honest with ourselves, like that's not. If it was like a $20 million deal, I think we'd be having a conversation that's much more closer to the all right. Well, they're just going to ship it. Like they're just going to ship it on going quarterback at the top, like the Justin Fields deal. Justin Fields got 2-year, $40 million. 15 million signing bonus, 30 million guaranteed, an average of 20 per year, base salary 5 million, but the signing bonus was 15. Like he got not only twice the years, but 4 times the money.
He got the year at least starting this year money.
Correct.
Russell did not get that.
Correct. And I think that's the first thing I thought of was, oh, they got Russ and Jameis. Okay, this is over. And that's not I don't think that's the most truth. When you go back, I think Daniel Jeremiah brought this up first, was the Jets, when they drafted Sam Darnold, had signed Josh McCown, and then they signed Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And when Darnold came in, then I think they traded Geno to like the Giants.
Yeah.
And this is like, think about the situations here. Josh McCown is your Winston. Geno is your Russ. And Darnold was a top 5 pick.
That's right.
So
there's good connection there. I mean, this happens all the time. It usually doesn't happen with 2 vets.
Yeah.
But there's usually not situations as desperate as the Giants right now in terms of their quarterback position. The Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon signed starter money with the Bears, and then they took Mitch Trubisky, and that was that. Mitch Trubisky started early in the season, and there it went.
What was the this is just a random one because of Russ, I thought of this. What was the Matt Flynn contract when he left the Packers and went to the Seahawks? Was that like let me see here. 3 year. That was only 3 years, 19.5. God, I remember that being so much more money.
Well, it could have been 319.5, 10 million guaranteed in 2012. That's not big money. I thought it was bigger than this too. I thought it was like, holy shit, he's getting 20-something million a year over 3 years or something.
Yeah, that's what I was just like. In the back of my head, I was like, remember when Matt Flynn got that fat deal and he left Green Bay? Like I thought for some reason it was like 3 for $60, but I obviously am completely out of pocket on that.
Same too.
He didn't even make $60 million in his career. 3 years, 19.5, and then they go out and draft Russ in like the 4th round, and Russ is Russin up there in Seattle. So I just want to get, what are your thoughts on this situation now? Because like I said, right away, I kind of went the avenue of going, all right, it's going to be Travis Hunter for the Giants. Like you have to improve the team. Yeah. I get the Abdul Carter side of things, but you got to improve the team, give your quarterback a weapon, do the damn thing. And now what? Like what's kind of your thought? Are you kind of in line with the double dip, the attempt to double dip and try to get a Hunter plus a quarterback? Or are you just saying like best player available, Carter or Hunter, doesn't matter? Or are you just saying like you must draft a quarterback because whatever way you slice it, we don't know what Russ and Winston are, or Tommy DeVito, and we kind of know what he is. But Joe Shane and Dayball are 1,000% fired mid-season if they just roll into the season, and both Winston and Russ just kind of are screwing the pooch all year.
So can we do it this way? Can we just start putting the pieces together as we kind of talk through it? Because I have some thoughts here, but I want to kind of organize these thoughts, or else we're just going to be all over the place. So let's just kind of break it down, because I've had a million thoughts. I thought this meant one thing, and now I'm starting to think another. So let's just kind of piece it together. Let's start with Cam Ward's pro day. Cam Ward's pro day, it locks him in at the 101, right? Let's just say it what it was. Yeah. The Tennessee Titans sent their owner, team president of football ops, GM, head of personnel, head coach, quarterback coach, their mothers, their grandmothers, their dogs. If you were associated with the Tennessee Titans front office, you were in attendance down in Miami and at that dinner with Cam Ward. That locks it up for me, especially when you see who was there for the Browns. Their linebackers coach, I know he had a private workout with the Browns, but that's more due diligence. It felt like
He
they
was
knew
at
what was happening.
Cam was at their facility like a week and a half ago.
Right. But still, like the presence of the Tennessee Titans, I think he's the 101.
They have the card. That's the problem. So it's like it doesn't really matter what the Browns do.
That's right.
Like the
They're
Browns
doing
had
their
him in.
due
The Browns,
diligence, but still.
I think the Browns probably did all that they needed to do in their facility to realize, if he's here at 2, we're taking him.
Right.
And they're going to maybe try to attempt to trade up, but I don't think it's going to work. And I think what you just said is like the Titans just were like, this is like the final thing. You're going to come to hear this in 5 months. It's like that pro day. We made sure everybody was there.
We all saw. We saw. Yep.
And it was the final checkbox.
Yep. You got to see this kid in person. It's gonna win you over. If you had any doubts, let's put a kibosh on that. Let's end that shit quick and proper. So we got Ward at the 101. Immediately after that, not even a day. We're talking 2 hours, 140 minutes, 3 hours, whatever it was. Immediately after Russ Wilson signs with the Giants. And my mind immediately goes, okay, they know that Ward's off the table, and they're believing because Ward's off the table, Shador's off the table. That's where my mind went immediately, and they need to make sure that their quarterback room has enough to keep their jobs. And I think even as is, I think you could see them be decent enough that they keep their jobs. But we'll see. So now I'm starting to believe other things. Because the Shador to the Browns felt so locked in for me. But now you're seeing Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry meet with Abdul Carter. You're hearing more buzz that they might be in to Travis Hunter at 2 instead of that, and that they're not going to get over excited with Shador. Which also leads me to my question to you. And this is why I wanted to piece it together this way as a timeline so that we can get our thoughts in line. Kirk Cousins is probably the biggest wild card in all this.
Yeah.
Because he said he will not waive his no-trade clause to get cucked again, right? So if he's going to be the Browns guy, they're not taking a quarterback, right?
Well, that's the goofy thing because he said he's not going to sign before the draft because he doesn't want to get cucked. And it's like, well, you have to have like preliminary conversation, contract written up, things like this to even go. If you're an NFL team, you can't go into a draft to be like, well, yeah, we're going to get Kirk next week, so we're not going to draft a quarterback because then you get caught not only with your freaking pants around your ankles, but like your wrists duct taped also to your ankles, right? And you're just stuck. You got nothing
you are
to do.
Stuckville.
You're like, well, we got Kenny Pickett, and you're like, well, guess what? Some other team didn't get their quarterback, and now they just gave Kirk, $10 million more than you did. And you're like, well,
we should have
got nothing to do. You're fucked, period. Yeah. So I think you have to have preliminary conversations. We're never going to be privy to that before the draft, especially. Would you even, I don't want to attach myself to that though. If I'm like the Browns at 2 and I'm looking at my future, I got to know before the draft, first off, if Kirk's my guy, which I don't think he is. I don't think he's a guy anymore. Yeah. I haven't thought he's been a guy in like 3 years. The pocket started crumbling around him in Minnesota when that offensive line was good. Not great, but good. And he just can't move. He's getting to a point, and now you have the Achilles thing. He just can't move even more. And we saw that last year with the Falcons. And it's like, that's not – I mean, you just saw in Cleveland what it's like to have a quarterback that's, hindered, right, from a shoulder perspective. Now think about a guy that can't move in the pocket when that offensive line in Cleveland is getting older by the minute, and it's crumbling. So I just think it's a lose-lose situation. If I'm the Browns personally – I'm taking a quarterback at 2. That's not a question, but I do think it is a question.
No, it is a question. And here's the other piece of this puzzle that we're trying to put together. Myles Garrett was being interviewed by Michael Fabiano, Cleveland Browns announcer, NFL Network guy. And he said part of the reason why he signed was the quarterback situation. How it was broken down to him got him excited enough to stick around Cleveland.
Cap.
I would imagine that's cap. It was money. It was obviously money. But if there is a fraction of truth, that means one of 2 things. It means Kirk Cousins or it means rookie quarterback. There's no one in between. right? There's nothing else that's been in the waters. There's no surprises that can happen. Russell Wilson's out there. Aaron Rodgers is holding the Steelers hostage, and they're dealing with that terrorist situation. So if there is a nugget of truth to this, it means one of two things. Like I said, Cousins or Shador. And I think it's Shador. So this is why I wanted to put this together. So you asked me my thoughts on the situation and how it's going to pan out with the Giants at 3. And I think now that we've put together the two quarterbacks, 1-2, I think that's how we go here because, at the end of the day, Shador Sanders, he's going to sell jerseys. He's going to sell tickets. And I think the marriage between Kevin Stefanski, who gets a lot out of pocket passers, with a guy like Shador Sanders is a chance for, magic. I think that's a good pairing to get a lot out of Shador early, who has his, he needs to develop in certain areas, but we know he's accurate and we know his processing ability, his IQ is through the roof. Two things I think that'll get him on the field day one with some success out the gate. So I think quarterback 1, quarterback 2, Giants now at 3. I don't believe that they can pull off the double dip. And here's why. When Nick Caserio pulled it off, and this is why I think, was it DJ that brought this up or Todd McShay?
Yeah.
Both of them might have. It's clearly out there because, the poll, it's getting to us. If it's getting to us, if it's getting to me and you, Cody, then it's out there. Nick Caserio had the 13th overall pick, the 12th overall pick to play around with?
Mm-hmm.
What team is going to jump out of the first round in the top 15, 16 picks? Because Jackson Dart now, we just talked about this. The run, if it goes quarterback, Jackson Dart is now on the table at 6, at 7, and at 9. So if that's going to be the case, the Giants are not going to be able to jump back in to get Jackson Dart. They're just not. And if Shador even slips and they don't take him at 3, maybe they'll have a chance. Maybe, Shador ends up going to going 9. Dart starts creeping to the 20s, and you just got to get in front of the Steelers type thing. So maybe that's a possibility. But since we're kind of putting the pieces together, we have Ward, Sanders, 1, 2 in the draft. The Giants, I think they go Hunter because Malik Neighbors and Travis Hunter, I mean, that is, you're going to have to project here, but that's the best wide receiver combo in the league if you project it out. So I think that's a move that, can help any quarterback. Plus, they do have a little bit of a need at DB, so we can kind of spell up out there with Deonte Banks and what they got going on in New York. And I think that's a good pick. And again, we've said this over and over and over again. And Cody, you and I are the only ones. We've been saying it privately. This is why we started doing the show, so we can say it publicly. We're the only ones that keep bringing up the fact of pleasing the owner. People talk about the owner, but they don't talk about how he needs his Saquon. And it doesn't have to be a running back. It doesn't have to be a quarterback. He needs his jersey seller. Travis Hunter's going to sell jersey. Travis Hunter's going to be your superstar. So I think that's who they take at 3.
I'm going to go back to a year ago. There's a trade that happened. I believe it was on March 15th. So we're 2 weeks post that. But different situation, different circumstance. The Houston Texans traded pick 23 and 232 to the Vikings. The Vikings were at pick 42.
Yep.
In round 2. So they traded out from 23 to 42. They acquired a 2025 second, so that's this year, and they moved up from 232 to 188 in that late round selection. But they moved down 19 spots. The Vikings moved up 19 spots, for those that remember, and that ended up having the Vikings with 2 first-round picks heading into the NFL draft because everybody knew the Vikings had quarterback circled. They needed to get an edge rusher, and I can't remember what else it was, corner maybe. And they were at 23, and they ended up going from 23 to 17 with Jacksonville to get Dallas Turner on draft night. And they also ended up going from 11 to 10 to get J.J. McCarthy. The difference here is the Giants are already at 3. So the Giants don't have to move up probably to get whatever that first piece is to the situation. Whereas, like, I could 100% see a Giant. The Giants, the reason I say this, the Giants are picking at 34. Like, it's not a first-round pick, but it's definitely better than the 42nd overall pick.
It's a good pick. You can definitely
And
get back on with that.
To say that you could probably go from 34, let's find a spot. Let's find a spot here. I mean, we're talking about it. We got time. Let's look at 8. Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers could go edge, D tackle, receiver. If the Panthers could move back, now this is a big drop. I understand.
This is a crazy drop, dude. I don't
8
know.
to 34. But look at you're picking
a crazy drop.
But like, where do the Panthers think they are right now? You think the Panthers again? The Panthers always think they're at this different level. But do you want to bring it down a notch? Should we bring it down a notch? Should we go to like Cincinnati at 17?
That's what. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. That's because now in this scenario, we've cleared the Saints hurdle at 9.
Yeah,
I think at that point, if there's a quarterback not selected by 9, whether it be Shador, Dart, or both, this is where the slide happens. So, anywhere from 15, 16, 17, I think this is where you're talking. So if you want to say 17 with Cincinnati, I think that is a perfect spot for the Giants to jump back up.
All right. So we saw Minnesota jump up 19 spots from 42 to 23. Now we're going to see the Giants move up 17 spots from 34 to 17.
Yep.
And if you compare these deals, you probably have to give up a 2025 second or a 2026 second. And then you have to give up some meat on the back end of the bone.
Yeah, 140, 20, something like that, whatever.
You have the Giants have 154 and 219. But they also have 2 third-round picks, a 4th-round pick. They can probably live to get rid of that 5th-round pick. So you give 154 to the Bengals, and the Bengals have a pick right there. Right, I think it's like back-to-back picks right there in the 5th round. So you give them that. So you give up next year's second, 154, and you move up 17 spots. I think that's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. I mean, you said they have 2 thirds. Maybe they don't give up a 26 second. They give up a 25 third and a 26 third.
I mean, I would still do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I think the point I'm really trying to make is, I think they have the ammo to do this. And pending on who's there, this is the type of scenario I think that Joe Shane is really hoping pans out for him.
I think Todd McShay had a trade in his latest mock.
His 2.0, and it was right in this range.
Let me pull it back up here. I want to see what this trade was because I just thought of that once we said this. So his trade was to go to 19. He said the Giants trade from 34 to 19. So I think Seattle's an interesting spot here for quarterback, but he obviously waits till after Seattle. With the Bucks, Giants move up from 34 to 19. They give up third.
Yep. So, I mean, 17, 19, we're talking fractional differences in terms of trade charts, NFL trade charts, rookie pick trade charts, that type of thing. Same thing. I think that'd be a good scenario. And then at that point, this would be, the Jackson Dart and Travis Hunter double tap. And I think that's the type of swing that you would make when you're desperate. Like, when you're on the verge of, when your back's against the wall, when you're in the corner, you go down swinging, right?
Yeah.
You see the movie The Matrix when they get cornered? My boy brings out the 2 machine guns. He gets lit up, but you got to go out swinging. And Joe Shane, Brian Daboll, they got to go out swinging.
You got to go out swinging. You can't miss on. I mean, you can miss on quarterback, but you got to throw as many darts as possible, and they're clearly throwing the darts. And that is figuratively Jackson Dart, the last dart. All right, so let's talk about that top 5 then. So we're going under the assumption that Shador goes to or no?
Yeah, I think so. I think, the Abdul Carter, all that stuff, I think it's due diligence. But I think at this point, Kevin Stefanski, he can't keep running from the shadow monster. He's got to stop and fight it eventually. And this is his chance to do it. You don't want to be up here again next year. You won't have a job. So you get a guy like Shador. It keeps you from being another top pick next year.
And then because of the Dart conversation, I'm in line with going Hunter at 3. I think that makes the best duo at the wide receiver position, like you said, with Malik Neighbors. He obviously can play corner. I've gotten some hate comments about Paulson Adebo does not suck. Well, I'll tell you what, he's not. He's not great. So he's good.
And Paulson Adebo's best out of the slot, isn't he?
he's also a longer guy. Like the thing is, he's a good corner. He's not a great corner. If you can say
Yeah.
I can go from Deontay Banks and Paulson Adebo to Deontay Banks and Travis Hunter, what are we doing here? Let's just be
Right,
honest.
right. And
So,
Deontay Banks wasn't great last year either. Let's call a spade a spade. He's got room to develop,
yes.
no doubt, but
So
you're
that's
not passing on
that's the
Hunter.
three. I think that's the three: Ward, Sanders, and then Hunter. And now your Patriots on the clock. And this is where I'm going to introduce this conversation because I think it's
Perfect
bad.
place. Yeah.
I obviously, if this happens, you sprint up. Abdul Carter is a New England Patriot. Obvious, right? In this situation, Ward, Sanders, Hunter, Carter is fourth. I think it's interesting that 2 months ago, we were having the conversation of, Harold Landry and Abdul Carter off the edge with Jeffrey Simmons on the inside and
Right.
T'Vondre Sweat's pretty sick. And now it's Harold Landry in the opposite of Abdul Carter with Milton Williams inside. Pretty sick.
It's
Um,
yeah. Christian Barmore. I mean, now it's so funny how things can be so serendipitous. Vrabel, Landry, Abdul Carter, Jeffrey Simmons, T'Vondre Sweat, Titans. And then you take 2 or 3 of those pieces, move them to England. It's almost the exact same thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. But I'm doing a show the other day and I'm gifted this. I'm just going to, Theo, I love you. Theo
Also, let's
says,
take a second to congratulate Theo for his next chapter. OG's we both love the OG. We saw the post. He's leaving Player Pro. We just want to give you some love real quick because we about to shit on you a little bit, OG. But we love you.
yes,
And we're very
yes.
proud of the next steps and everything you've accomplished. You're a beast in this space. You're the man. So shout out to OG. Now let's shit
He knows that. He knows that. He knows we love him. He knows he's a real brother, not just a figurative internet screen brother. Like he's a real brother.
Yeah.
To us. And I told him this on the show the other day. He brought up, what if Ashton Jeanty is in the conversation at 4 to the Patriots? What? And then he goes to 4. And then what about Jacksonville at 5? And I have an inherent issue with any of these 3 teams, New England, Jacksonville, and Las Vegas, doing 2 things. One, I've talked about it before. I'm not going to say it again. Tedero McMillan going to any of these teams in the top 6 is idiotic. 2, Ashton Jeanty, who I understand and I view as the best running back in the class. I just made a tweet with the Roster Watch account. I said, is this a potential? In a year, I had this conversation a year ago. Is it potential that there's no comparable player for Ashton Jeanty? Ashton Jeanty's best comparable player is just Ashton Jeanty. It was the same thing with Malik Neighbors last year. Like, there's so much of this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy that there's not really a comp. Like, there's some Diggs in Malik Neighbors. There's some Chase in there. There's some Jefferson. Like, there's a lot of everything in Neighbors' game. So Neighbors is just Neighbors. You look at Jeanty and you're like, man, is that like, I see some D'Angelo Williams. I see some like Adrian Peterson. I see some like Gibbs. Like, there's like so many different things. You go, that's just Ashton Jeanty. I get it. And then we had Chad Forbes tweet out, he got text from a former NFL executive. And I quote, "We all get fired. You draft the Hall of Famers. That's on your resume for eternity. The Boise State kid will be in Canton. Character is better than talent. Perfect kid. I'll take that on my CV." People are going to view it that way, as they should. But we're talking about a running back on rosters that are inept on the offensive line, or inept at corner, or inept at edge. Positions that are superior to running back. And in a running back class where each of these 3 teams, New England, Jacksonville, Vegas, have second-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I'm stressing here is the importance of getting that tackle. In my opinion, New England needs that tackle on the left side, right? In my opinion, Jacksonville needs a tackle on the left side. In my opinion, the Raiders need a tackle on the right side. And if you're giving me truth serum and saying, what's the best possible thing you could do for these franchises? This is going to sound idiotic. It's not draft Abdul Carter. It's draft New England takes either Campbell or Banks. Jacksonville takes Campbell or Banks, and Las Vegas takes Membu. Because those are the positional needs. That's how you surround Drake May with a tackle to protect his blind side. That's how you surround Trevor Lawrence with a left tackle to protect his blind side. You protect Geno Smith on the front side with Membu, and you have your front five, especially if you're Las Vegas. I mean, Las Vegas to me is the most obvious. Like, draft Membu at right tackle, get your running back in the second round, and make fucking square bales, dude. Just make square bales and just run. And everybody wants to come out here. And again, like, that's not going to happen. What I just said is not going to happen because Carter's there, obviously. I don't think all three tackles go like this. But my problem is inherently the Jeanty thing, is that it makes no sense. And Jeanty's great. It makes no sense to go ahead and do this. And I got the year before Vrabel went to Tennessee, the Titans had a second-round pick. They had a first-round pick. And they got Jack Conklin in the first round and Derrick Henry in the second round, right? Mm-hmm. And the Dallas Cowboys, who needed corner and running back, went Zeke in the first round, skipped on Jalen Ramsey. Mm-hmm. And they could have had Derrick Henry in the second round. They could have went Ramsey, Derrick Henry. Instead, they went Zeke and was it Mo Claiborne? Who was it?
No, I don't think it was Mo Claiborne. I think it was a different year. 2016 draft, right?
Yeah, my brain just went empty. I was trying to think of who it was. Second round, Cowboys. Jalen Smith. That was okay, we talked about Jalen Smith last week.
Yeah.
So anyway, point taken. That wasn't that draft. What are we doing here? That's not 2016. What year was that? 2015?
No, that would probably have been 2017, maybe.
Oh my God, we're so off now.
No, we can get right back on track here. All we have to do is
Zeke draft.
Look at the Zeke draft.
2016.
They took Zeke at 4th overall. Then in the second round, they took Jalen Smith. You were nails there. They took Malik Collins in the 3rd, Charles Tapper. So they did not go cornerback with significant draft capital. The first cornerback that they did select was in round 6, Anthony Brown. But that was also the year they took Dak Prescott in the 4th round. So a decent draft for him. But yeah, if this draft went Jalen Ramsey, 4th overall, Derrick Henry, 34th overall, and let the rest of it play out as is. I mean, Dallas could be, you want to talk about alternate timelines, that could have been, this could be one of the most altering things for a franchise ever. Who knows what they could have been.
And this is what I'm getting at, is that I think the decision makers in New England aren't stupid, even though they weren't all in Tennessee at that point. I think Vrabel experienced what it was like to have your Jack Conklin, your Taylor Lewan, your big dog. He's not like, let's go out and get a Jeanty. We don't have tackles. We have Morgan Moses, who's 67, and we have no left tackle of consequence. Let's do it. Let's go get Jeanty and let's run this damn football. I think he's going to go, how about we get a tackle and then a running back? Like,
right.
Especially when you have guys that, can grind meat like Ramondre Stevenson and a guy that has a little bit of athleticism and Antonio Gibson and a draft class that is ridiculously deep. So I just have an issue with the even thought of Jeanty here. Jacksonville, it was even brought. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Theo brought up Jacksonville as well. And I'm just like, brother, like, no. Like, as much as ETN sucked last year and Tank Bigsby, actually flashed, and there's a lot of thought that can go into Jacksonville drafting another running back, especially given Liam Cohen and Gladstone. They need tackle. They need corner. They need interior defensive linemen. So that doesn't make sense. And the same thing with Las Vegas, man. They just need, I think they need Membu more than Membo needs Membu to eat Membu. Like,
that would be an awesome pick for them. But let me ask you this, though. And maybe this will help sort it out. We talked about this being a BPA season, best player available. Elliot Wolf said it. We've heard it out of Vegas. We've heard Jacksonville talk about the best player available is the stock answer, which makes everyone go, that's Jeanty. Jeanty's the highest on all of our boards at this point. Now, if you're the NFL scout, and I don't have as much experience as the national guys, obviously, in terms of talking to these people, I'm still getting there, slowly but surely, maybe one day. But what I don't know and what I haven't heard spoken about, maybe it's just kind of sacrilege to bring it up in public, but when these NFL scouts, these NFL front offices, they have their big boards. Are they just slaves to best player available, or will they make more adjustments based on team need, position scarcity? Because that, to me, is the question that needs to be answered. Because Jeanty's great. Jeanty's awesome. Maybe Jeanty is the next Maurice Jones-Drew. He's the next 1,000-yard rusher. It seems like he's a lock to be a very good running back. But the fact that you could potentially get Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson maybe in round 2, Caleb Johnson for sure, or wait later and get an Ollie Gordon, a Dylan Sam. There's all of these running backs. So I don't know if that makes teams super urgent to take a running back. That's why, in my latest mock, I did have the Raiders taking Jeanty at 6, but that's because all of the national guys had it. And I just kept thinking to myself, man, if everyone is saying this, I'd just be an idiot to go against it. But now we're already seeing that kind of shake loose. So for me, I don't think we see Jeanty in the top 10, to be fair.
Ooh.
So
you're not buying the Raiders.
I'm no longer buying the Raiders, and it's exactly what you just talked about. Now, in our situation, Carter's there at 4. That might be a player that they could sell if they do want to move down. Problem is, I think the team most desperate to get an Abdul Carter, the Panthers, they don't have their second-round pick. They have the Rams' second-round pick, which I think is pick 58. So you're not getting that premier pick. If you could go from 4 to 8 and get the 38th overall pick, which I know that's a Patriot, but in that range, then that becomes more enticing. They could do a big trade back to the Falcons. Falcons would love Abdul Carter. They'd probably give up a future first potentially to move up Abdul Carter along with a second-round pick. Who knows? So if Abdul falls, Patriots could certainly sell that to another team if possible to make sure they stay on track. But I do believe in what I'm hearing up here in New England. If Abdul is there at 4, he's coming to New England. And Abdul Carter is special enough that this now gives their defense. I mean, you want to talk about a scary unit. Pause. It's the New England Patriots with Harold Landry, Abdul Carter, Christian Barmore, Milton Williams in the middle, improved linebackers, Christian Gonzalez, but that leaves them very vulnerable at offensive line. But could a Josh Connolly be there for him in round 2? Could they have high remarks? Ursary, I always say his name wrong, the kid from Minnesota. Could those be possibilities? Are they in the range where they think they can get Donovan Jackson? Yeah, I think that's possible. So I don't see Jeanty going to the Patriots. Let's take that off the board. And then 5, you could sell me, Cody, on Tyler Warren over Jeanty if you're going to go with a flashier pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But what we have seen here so far from the new regime in Jacksonville is this: smarts, calculation, a game plan. With all the cuts that they've made, all the recalibrating they've done, to then just go ahead and take a running back seems kind of dumb. It seems dumb. When we're talking about a Mason Graham being there, we're talking about, the number 1 cornerback in the class, whoever they have graded, whether it be Barron or Johnson, them being there. They need cornerbacks badly. Their secondary has been dog shit for years, and it has not gotten better in free agency, where they did improve the interior. They extended Walker Little. So they do, in their mind, potentially can wait for the second round or third round for another offensive lineman. So I don't think Jeanty goes there. Now, 6, it seems like that's the public believes he goes there. I don't know. I'm starting to believe that Pete Carroll goes cornerback. I'm starting to truly believe that cornerback CB1 is going to be the 7th pick as long as the draft stays as is.
6th
pick, if the draft stays as is, to the Vegas Raiders, because they have a playmaker right in their secondary, but they lost the safety, a good one, and I don't know who is it. Joe Jackson. I always forget his name. The guy who used to be in the Patriots, the gun guy. Jack Jones. They got him, but they could use a Richard Sherman type, a big body guy, a Will Johnson. I think Will Johnson is very much play, or Jahdae Barron, because Jahdae Barron has been so impressive this whole year,
Yeah.
including draft season, that if he goes 7th overall, I'll have no issues with it. So I start thinking to myself, they go cornerback 1 at 6. Now, where does Jeanty go after that? I don't know.
So we do have pro days coming up this week. So Shador Sanders pro days this week on the 4th. Will Johnson is in like
Private
2 weeks
workout.
on the 14th. It's a private work on the 14th. We also have Jalen Walker and Michael Williams from Georgia on the 17th. So those are the big pro days coming up. Just wanted to mention that because Will Johnson, like we haven't heard his name a lot because he's been injured, but he's going to be a curveball, potential curveball, like obviously last minute curveball if we see or hear anything come out from that workout here in a couple of weeks. I think that's interesting, especially given was he in Seattle or was that his last year when they drafted Devon Witherspoon?
Pete Carroll drafted Devon Witherspoon himself. Well,
In 23.
him and his team, but it was part of Pete Carroll. And at the time, it was a shocking pick because they didn't need, and I use quotations here, they didn't need a cornerback, but they took just a savage, and he's been great for them.
Yeah, it took him. That was in 2023, and he obviously is. He's a. There's no corners in this class that are just, in the. I shouldn't say that. There's no corners at the top end of this draft that are menaces like Devon Witherspoon is. That's going to be like your Kobe Bryant from Kansas, who's going to be like a 5th round pick, unfortunately. But that's here nor there. Let's get out of here with this. We could go on, I think, for another hour about the top 6, top 7, top 8. Tyler Warren, things like this. We'll keep Tyler Warren on the back burner. I want to let this thing marinate for another week about the tight ends and continue to kind of come through. That pro day just happened this last week up at Penn State. Let's get official predictions. April 1st, mock draft, top 6 selections.
Okay.
Cam Ward's a lock at 1.
Yep.
Where do you go at 2?
I'm sticking with Shador as of right now.
Okay. I'm going to go Abdul Carter. Where are you going at 3?
I will go Travis Hunter.
I'm going Shador. Where are you going at 4 with the New England Patriots?
Abdul Carter.
Okay. I'm going Hunter.
I would love Hunter. Hunter the Patriots is what I want. As a fan, it's what I want more than anything. I want it so bad.
All right. Now, same 4 players, obviously. Maddie goes Ward, Sanders, Hunter, Carter. I go Ward, Carter, Sanders, Hunter. 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Where are we going?
I have 3 names in mind: Jalen Walker, Will Campbell, and Mason Graham. There's been some stank on Graham. I don't know if I could put my thumb on it, if it's real, but there's definitely some NFL stank on Graham. So I think he starts to slide a little bit. So I don't think it's Graham. Do they want the versatile playmaker in Walker? Or do they want the first offensive lineman off the board? Again, I don't think they need they need a lineman. They probably could use a nice tackle. Will Campbell could play that outside with now Magic 33-inch arms. It's magic how that happens. I think they go Jalen Walker here. I think that they go with the edge rusher that can play a little bit off ball. It just further pushes that defensive unit, up the line, makes him a lot better. And I think that's going to be what they kind of want to do. It sounds like the mission in Jacksonville is to simplify, to dial it in, to help Trevor Lawrence. Improving their defense will help doing that as well. So I think they go Jalen Walker.
Oh, man. I'm still kind of at a toss-up right now with Jacksonville. Kind of for every reason you just explained. Walker Little did get a contract this last season. So I think
but not by this regime. Not
correct,
by this regime.
but the contract is the contract.
The contract is the contract, yeah.
And I think he's a good enough swing tackle that they potentially just kind of press and don't take a first-round pick right there. I'm going to go back and just stick with the thought of interior. They have Eric Armstead, Mason Smith on the roster. Add a Mason Smith, add a Mason Graham. Let's go Mason Graham. I'm just going to stick with it for now. I'm not going to adjust. So I'm going to go Mason Graham, and you are going – Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker, yep.
All right. Raiders at 6.
I mean, Jeanty's definitely in play here. He's
God,
definitely in
it's so
play.
stupid. It's so stupid. Like
I
even the thought of it with Chip Kelly being there, it's just like so stupid. It doesn't make sense. And this is nothing to you. Obviously, this is like the
no.
overwhelming. Just every time it's one of the few things that like every time it's brought up, it make you just saw my reaction. I just get like ah, like it's like the Will Campbell is so clearly the best tackle. And it's like, all right, well, I mean, we're just going to ignore him having sub 33-inch arms, according to everybody except for his pro day. And then we're going to just ignore Calvin Banks.
Yeah, the most ignored player in this process, which baffles me. We've talked about that.
And it's like it didn't happen until the last like 45 days. And then all of a sudden it's just like, yep, that guy doesn't mean shit. And it's like, well,
I started 6,000 games at left tackle at Texas, and now all of a sudden he's forgotten.
And dominated.
But you know what that could mean, though, Cody? That could mean he's being not talked about in our space because he's so dialed in as first tackle off the board in the NFL space. And there's just no dust to talk about. There's no rabble rousing to be had that whenever the first offensive lineman has their name called, it's Calvin Banks. The NFL already knows it. That could be what we're dealing with here.
That's what I think. I mean, that's why I've always brought his name up at 4, but I don't think he's going to go 6. We'll just put it that way.
I think he could go 4.
I think he should go 4.
If Carter and if let's say let's say Henry goes 3 in your mock, so you have it Ward,
Henry,
Carter, Hunter.
What
did I say? Henry, Hunter at 3. Patriots obviously aren't going Shador. I don't think a team's really going to trade up with them to get Shador. I think if the Giants pass on Shador, the slide could be in, folks. That is where Dion and Shador are going to be like, let's get comfy. We might need to get comfy for a little bit. We'll see.
That's your Aaron Rodgers, Johnny Manziel slide.
That's right. If they don't go 3. So let's just say that scenario happens. I think Calvin Banks at 4 is absolutely in play.
Would you want Banks or Mason Graham if you're
Banks.
a Patriot fan?
No doubt Banks. This is how I want Hunter. This is going to sound stupid as a fan. This isn't my analysis as a fan. I'd be cool with Carter because he's good. But like I wouldn't be like gassed, I wouldn't be pumped. But I'd be cool with it. Obviously, he's that good. And then after that, Banks. Banks is the guy that I'd want. I think he is the left tackle they need. The left tackle they desperately need, and it solidifies things for them because Moses will be solid as a right tackle. They know they got Wenwu in the middle, who's been good. Cole Strange was a first-round pick and has flashed at times, and they just brought in Bradbury. I think right there you're talking about a good offensive line, and that would give them flexibility to get a little cuckoo crazy in round 2, which I'd like. So I would be down with that. But in this scenario, I have, we hashed it out. Can't be that way. So for the Raiders, here at 6, I don't think they go Jeanty. And you mentioned his name. It's because of Chip Kelly. I believe Chip Kelly is going to vouch for his Buckeyes hard this year with good reason. They are the best draft prospects by any one singular school. The OSU Buckeyes have the best class in this 2025 class. They're professional graded. They got the professional mindset. Some of them are wildly talented blue chip guys. Other ones will be solid pros. The Buckeyes are dialed. That's why I think Vrabel might have some Buckeye bias, but we'll see about that. Maybe we'll talk about that down the line. But I do believe that if you're asking Chip Kelly, who is going to be the maestro of this offense, who is going to conduct an offense closer to the UCLA OSU offense than the old wide open Oregon Duck days, they're not going to do that in Vegas. They're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. Remember what he did in UCLA? It was 3 tight ends on the field, run it up the middle, run. That's what they're going to deploy. And I don't think that's going to make people go, oh, then it's Jeanty. No, I think that's not Jeanty. I think at 7, the decision comes between Banks and Jardé Barron, Texas. So what I'm going to keep my eyes open for is who was down. I'm going to do some more digging. Who was there at the Texas Pro Day from Vegas? Who were they talking to? How did their visits kind of play out? Because I think that's a decision there because Kelvin Banks, you can kick him in. You can kick him to the right. You can put him at left. they could use a Kelvin Banks and solidify that line. And I think they go running back in round 2. I think this is a team, the Raiders, you have to be on the lookout for trading up for Quinshawn, trading up for Travion. So at 6, for this purpose, I am not going to go Kelvin Banks. I am going to go Jeanty Barron. I'm going to go with the cornerback. I think that he's not a menace like Devon Witherspoon, but if you want to talk about a sheer playmaker, I think he has those characteristics that are closest to a guy like Devon Witherspoon. And I think when you add a guy like Barron, who's fast enough to play on the outside, skilled enough to play on the inside, with a Jack Jones, now you have a tandem that can really kind of cause problems in a division that you need solid secondary play. You're going up against the Chargers, you're going up against the Broncos, and you're going up against the Chiefs twice a year. You need secondary help. So that's why I'm going to go Jeanty Barron.
All right, I like that. I mean, that's a big jump up here for the Jim Thorpe Award winner, all the way up to 6. I'm going to go Armand Membu, the right tackle from Missouri. For everything I've talked about before, I think they go running back in round 2. The Raiders do. Adding Membu to the right side, Colton Miller on the left side. I think it just ties your offensive line together and kind of Raiders haven't had a good offensive line since it feels like a decade back when they had like Gabe Jackson and the year they signed Kelechi Osemele and like all these guys. And then Rodney Hudson when he was the leader of that offensive line. And then they just kind of like let the ship sail and everything. And it hasn't been great since. I'm going to go Membu at 6. So for those listening, Maddie went Cam Ward to the Titans, Shedeur Sanders to the Browns, Travis Hunter to the Giants, Carter to the Patriots, Jalen Walker to the Jaguars, Jeanty Barron to the Raiders. I went Ward to the Titans, Carter to the Cleveland Browns, Shedeur Sanders to the Giants, Travis Hunter to the Patriots, Mason Graham to the Jags, and Armand Membu, right tackle, to the Las Vegas Raiders. That's another show. That's a Draft Rankings podcast. Maddie, what do you got this week? You got anything releasing? Mock draft? You got a show? What's one thing you want the people to tap into this week?
Head over to SouthHarmonFF.com. We got our rookie guide update coming very, very soon. Might even be out by the time you're checking us out here on this show. And then just go to SouthHarmonFF.com. That'll get you access to all the podcasts, 4D Chess with me and my man Mike. And we got something brewing there. Our fantasy football channel, South Harmon Fantasy Channel, is going to be launched here very, very soon, where we dive into some best ball stuff here in the offseason as we get closer to the NFL, the draft season of fantasy football. We're going to get a lot of stuff brewing over there. But, of course, SouthHarmonFF.com, South Harmon on YouTube, South Harmon Vibes channel as well on YouTube.
At Matty Kiwoom on X, the Draft Ranking Show every single day, 7 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast and on YouTube. We appreciate you. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.